Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Are You Listening with your host, Abigail. It is so weird. I'm recording the last week's episode and then this week's episode back to back. I've literally just had a really quick bite to eat and I'm back recording. So yeah, when this goes out, I'm currently in Mauritius, which is why I'm trying to batch create. I'm doing 2 ahead. The plan is to try and record one while I am in Mauritius. I really hope I manage to get to do that and schedule it out in time. That is the plan, because I don't want to skip a week. We're going to keep the momentum going. So, my weekly thoughts list, what I've written down for this episode is how tracking my cycle changed everything. And I kind of wanted to just talk about contraception, our body, and actually knowing it. I just think in your late 20s and lead up to your 30s, my light just died. So sorry if the quality has gone down a tiny bit. I bought a really good light from TikTok shop and I was so confident that I haven't even, charged it yet. Yeah, it got a bit cocky and now it's just died. So sorry about that. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about contraception as a whole, my opinions on it. I want to give a really quick disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I am not someone who would be considered qualified to talk about contraception. But I am a woman. I've been on contraception, multiple forms of contraception. And I have got my own opinion on all of that kind of stuff, as every woman does. But I just thought it would be a really good episode to get into, really relatable, and whether you learn something or it just, gets you to think about, contraception, our bodies in different ways, then that is the aim. But let's, get into it. So I kind of wanted to start with kind of a universal experience, not for everyone, but for a lot of women, the universal experience is we're a teenager, we either struggle with our skin, we have acne, our skin's either bad, we have really heavy painful periods, all of that kind of stuff, or you get a boyfriend, and the automatic jump is that we all start on the pill. Some people as young as 12, 13. And usually it's with no idea of what it will do to our bodies. You take it because that's what everyone else does. That's just kind of that's the place to start. That's the thing the doctors will put you on. That's the thing our mums will tell us to go on. My opinion on that has completely changed, and I really don't want this to come across like I'm a contraception hater, because I'm not. There's space for all forms of contraception for each person, for each person. But what I would like to say is that my opinion on contraception is very, very different to what it used to be. So as I got older, I've realised, understanding how our bodies work first is very, very important before we put anything into it. Like I said, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, things like that. If you struggle with things like PCOS, if there is medical conditions there, and that is the reason you're on contraception, it's very different. I'm talking more about just being put on it because there's no answer for anything else. That's the really quick answer. And I'm talking about that's just kind of what you do. You start taking the pill. Almost every late 20s woman I have spoke to has felt in some kind of stuck on a routine of contraception without actually understanding why, what it's doing, or if they need to be doing that. So I'm going to give a little bit of backstory for my own personal journey. Everyone's is different. I went on the pill probably when I was about, I feel like I was a bit of a later starter. I was probably about maybe 17-ish. I had some for it, maybe 17, maybe 17, 18, something like that. I have a lot of friends that obviously went on the pill way before then, but I didn't. I held off a little bit. I didn't feel like I needed it, things like that. And then my skin started to play up a little bit, things like that. I also found that I used to have really long periods. Like, they would, when I say really long, I just feel like, like an average period, I don't even know what, like 5 days, something like that. Obviously some people shorter, some people's longer, but mine would be like 8-9 days. And I know that at that age your body is still changing, and that's obviously what I'm going to get into. But like, for me that felt like quite a long time. My skin wasn't great, so I went on the pill. And even when I went, I didn't even know if I could actually go on the pill. When I first went for my first doctor's appointment, my grandma died of breast cancer when she was in her 50s. She was very, very young. And obviously because of that, she's a direct link of breast cancer being in our family. Although no other direct link to me, such as my mum, my aunties, touch wood, has ever had breast cancer, it still puts me at a little bit more of a risk of being on it, or just the doctor would have to sit and basically, look at other options first before jumping to put me on that. So that was my first experience. I was then on that probably until I was about 24, 24 maybe, 24, 25. I then decided to come off of it because, I've been taking it for a while. I didn't feel like I went through a few pills. I tried a few. One, I just felt very angry on it. Then tried the mini pill and I bled the whole way through. And then I tried another one and I actually felt like I got along with it quite well, considering. But I felt like I'd been on it for a while. I didn't feel like, I started to do a bit of research and I was like, I don't know if I want to actually take this anymore. I don't want to, for it to do what it's meant to be doing. I don't want to have to be taking something that's got to kind of go the whole way through my body to do it. I don't know, I started to just question it a little bit. So I came off of it and I still wanted to have something. And you know what? More than anything, I hadn't really had a period for however many years I'd been on it, because after the first few years of being on the pill, the nurse was like, you don't have to take a break. And I was like, well, brilliant, I don't have to have a period. And it's so funny when you don't have a period for a really long period of time. The thought of it is actually then like, I don't know how I'll cope with that. Even though it's obviously what our bodies naturally are meant to do. I was like, I don't know if I can cope with that. And so my mum and my sister and I had multiple clients who had had the coil and had really good experiences with it. So I actually had that within about, and I really again don't want this to sound like I'm putting someone off, but for me, I wish I just had a bit more information and had been given a little bit more information when it came to the hormonal coil. I was someone who did suffer with cystic acne. It had never been really bad, but anytime I got a spot, I got a really angry under the skin spot. It would sit, it would scar. So I was very prone to that and very oily on my face and things like that. So naturally, I am acne prone, and I had periods with acne, but not really, really badly. Within, I'd say 2-3 months, my skin really changed and I started to get a lot of spots. And I know they say, it takes about 3 to 6 months for it to settle into your body totally fine. Within the space of about 6 months, I had full-blown acne all over my cheeks and it was really bad and it was only getting worse. I also found I was bleeding 99% of the time, like just spotting all the time or bleeding. It wasn't settling, and it got to about Christmas, so about 6 months. So I'd given it the 6 months, I think it was. And I was at my wit's end. It was dark, it was winter, it was horrible. My skin was the worst it had ever been. It was really, really bad, if I'm completely honest. My confidence took a complete hit. Mentally, I didn't feel like I was in a very good place because of it. I basically went into the new year within a few days of being in the new year of what it would have been 2022. I had my coil removed. Literally, I'm not joking, it was about like the 4th of January. The 5th of January, I'd booked in with a dermatologist and I worked really closely with a dermatologist then for the next 10 months. I was put on I wasn't put on Roaccutane, but I was put on some kind of medication for my skin to help regulate or help with my hormones and the overproduction of them hormones. I was put on that medication. I was having chemical pills every 2 weeks, and I was on a really, really strict skincare routine, followed by really more abrasive treatments down the line. And my skin actually hasn't been the same since. I'm left with quite a lot of scarring compared to what it has been in the past. I'm very pleased with it. But if I'm stressed, anything, it's triggered and my acne comes back, or it at least flares up. My skin has never been the same since. And as I said, I don't want this to be a putting you off. But when I then started to do my research, it apparently is a bit of a known thing that if you are very acne prone or you've had acne in the past, then it can be a trigger. If I had known that, I would never ever have had the coil. So that's my experience with that. I had the coil removed, and then I started tracking my cycle ever since. I use natural cycles, and now I've got an Oura ring. But I actually started dating my boyfriend 2 months after that, so tracking my cycle was very new. I had to be very honest with him, and I was like, I will not be going on anything else. I'm pretty traumatized with the way that everything went down when it came to contraception, and I will not go on contraception again. I am in the middle of, getting my body back naturally to where it should be. And he worked with me really, really closely, and, he was very patient with me about it, and even with my skin. And I'll do a whole nother episode on my skin and things like that. But I just wanted to talk about my experience with it and why I don't believe for myself that contraception is a good thing. I track my cycle, and I know that there's people out there that don't believe in it, but the science is that our bodies work on a 28-day cycle, 28 days being a rough 28 days. It could be anywhere from I think it's 20 to 38 days, something like that for the average person. But our bodies naturally work on a 28-day cycle, and after 3.5 years, my body is very, very regular. I know my body inside out. And tracking my cycle has been incredible. And like I said, I've got an Oura ring now that tracks it even more closely. Now, I was pushed to take control and stop assuming that contraception is one size fits all. It wasn't for me. It didn't work for me at all. But I don't want to put something in my body without knowing its long-term effects. And I also think, being in my later 20s now, I'm glad I made that decision when I did, because obviously it can take a while for our bodies to naturally start to ovulate again and get back to the place when it comes to trying for babies. People say it makes you infertile. I don't know if things make you infertile. I don't know if being on the pill makes you infertile. I don't know any of that. I don't think anyone knows any of that. And again, one person is different. Some people come off the pill literally within a few weeks they'll be pregnant. Some people have to wait years afterwards to get their bodies back to where it should be. But understanding our bodies is the most important thing. So I would genuinely say that tracking my cycle has changed my life in regards to my mood, my energy, my sex drive. When I'm fertile, understanding each phase, I actually love the fact that it helps my relationship with my partner, because I am so in tune and aware of what my body is doing when he knows my cycle phases and all my moods and things like that as well. And not in a way like, oh, are you during your period? It will literally be, he'll notice a switch in me and he'll go, are you in your luteal phase? Are you leading up to your PMSing? And I don't flip my lid about that, because yes, I am. So it is quite empowering coming off of contraception and actually taking control of my body again. But like I said, I don't want this to sound like I'm being one of them people that are like, bad contraception, track your cycle. But if you are someone that doesn't understand your body, doesn't understand the science of it, then this is kind of just a little bit of information, maybe a step towards that for yourself. Many of my friends and clients are on contraception because they don't understand how their bodies work. We was not taught in school. We was taught we could get pregnant on our periods at school. I literally remember being told that, and I just think it's mental, and it is not discussed openly. And I think men and women, everyone should be taught how the female body works, because it's so important, and realistically it is our job to know as much as theirs. Most people don't know that only a few days a month, it actually is only it's like a few hours out of your whole month you can get pregnant. But they feel like they have to be on contraception just in case, because they don't understand. You know, I've spoke to friends and they've wanted to come off the pill, and I'm like, okay, you know, they're like, I don't really want to be on anything, but you know, I don't want to get pregnant. And I'm like, well, I haven't been on anything in 3.5 years. They're like, yeah, but I don't want to get pregnant. I'm like, I'm not trying to get pregnant either. I'm actively tracking my cycle. So it kind of feels like you have to be on something just in case. Like I said at the beginning, obviously conditions like PCOS, irregular cycles, make contraception a different conversation and sometimes a necessary choice. So I don't want this to sound like I'm kind of preaching, don't be on anything, everyone be natural. My sister's got PCOS, and you know, as much as she would love to come off of being on contraception, she's tried a few things. It's really hard for her because everything is so irregular, it's hard to track. So why education and awareness matters in regards to our bodies and our cycles and contraception. Knowledge equals power. Understanding your body allows you to make choices consciously, not by default or what we've been told or led to believe. Cycle awareness can inform energy, mood, like I said, sexual health, planning for pregnancy, even training, working out and performance. I know for a fact, I went to Pilates this morning and my period's due in about 4 days. I went to Pilates this morning, it was really hard. And when I say I'm not joking, a week ago I did a class harder than that, and I absolutely bossed it. If I would have gone to that class and I had no idea about my cycle right now, I would have gone and been like, what? I've gone backwards. I haven't worked out in 2 days. What's happening to me? Why is this happening? I feel sluggish. I feel bloated. I feel disgusting. Like, I don't feel good in myself. Why? I'm going backwards. Making yourself really hard on yourself. Instead, I walked into that class knowing I'm really tired. I probably won't be able to go as heavy as I normally do. And that's fine. I feel way more fatigued and exhausted after doing that class than I did that one over a week ago. And that's fine. I don't put the pressure on myself. Even things like, you know, when you're in the early phases just after your period, doing cardio and exercise that, you know, is higher impact, will feel amazing and you'll feel really strong and great. It's a bit like when I'm ovulating. I make that joke with my friends and even my boyfriend that I'm like, I look in the mirror when I'm ovulating and I'm the sexiest person alive. I look and I think, do you know what? I am incredible. I'm fit. I'm skinny. I look amazing. And I'm in the phase right now and I'm like, I've put weight on. I'm disgusting. My face looks different. It literally warps everything. It changes how you look completely and how you feel and how you think about yourself and how you talk to yourself. So feeling in tune with my body gives me freedom. I know for a fact that I'll put my trousers on now and I won't feel as confident. My belly won't be as flat as it normally is. I won't feel as toned. I feel a bit sluggish. I fancy sweeter food. I don't want a meal. I want something naughty to eat and things like that. And I could do that without guilt. It's not just about health. It's just self-awareness and confidence and just being aware. So yeah, I do think that there is 100% a place for contraception. Women's health, there is not enough research that goes into women's health, full stop. That's a blanket statement in itself. That's a bit of an umbrella statement in itself. But I just wish I could turn to some of my friends and shake them and just say, you know, coming off of contraception and tracking your cycle, it doesn't mean you're trying for a baby. And do you know what? Even, I haven't actually written this bit down because I wanted to try and keep this short, but I feel like I'm in a bit of a flow now. The other side of it, obviously tracking your cycle prevents pregnancy. It makes you more aware. It does everything that we have just spoke about. But the flip side of it is it will then, if you're trying to get pregnant and having a baby, you will feel a lot more in control of yourself, your body, and what is happening if you are able to know what is happening in your body already, when to try for a baby, when you should be trying, like when you are ovulating, it will make the process easier. I'm not saying you'll fall pregnant really easily. I know that some people struggle regardless. But for example, if you don't know when you ovulate, if you don't know the signs to look out for, if you think you can get pregnant at any time in the month, you will struggle more to get pregnant than if you know your body, you know when you're ovulating, you know what's happening in your body, you know them changes, you know what to feel for, you know what to look for, you know roughly what time of the month, how many days in the ovulation is going to take place. There's ovulation tests. I know so many of my friends have no idea about that. There's ovulation tests that you can take around the time that you know, if you start tracking everything, and then on the days you think you're ovulating, you do a test and it tells you, and then you would try for a baby on that day. Sperm lives inside of you up to 5 days, I think it is. So obviously, yes, you can only get pregnant in a 24-hour time frame or a few hours or whatever it is. But obviously, if you try for a baby in that period of time, in that window before, you're much more likely to get pregnant. Once the egg is gone, you cannot get pregnant. Hence, not getting pregnant on your period. Once the egg is gone, and your body is getting ready for your period to come, there is no physical way that you can get pregnant, because what on earth is a sperm going to attach to create a baby? It is just, I just think long-term planning is also important. I'm not saying come off contraception now, but it is something to think about. I've also gone to a bit more extremes of doing one of them fertility tests, just because I know my body is very regular, but I also want to know, I would love to have a baby in the next few years, right? I thought, I've been off contraception for 3 years at that point, 3 years. My body's very in tune, I'm very regular, I'm very stressed, things like that. But I would like to know if there's an issue to deal with, because obviously with women's bodies, it can take a while to change things in your body to then ovulate healthily, right? With a guy, I feel like I'm doing a science lesson now, but I just think it's important to speak about. With a guy, it only takes about 3 months for their sperm to turn around. So for me, I was like, if it could take years to maybe try and change things in my body to make sure I'm ovulating healthily, to then when it comes to trying for a baby in a few years, I'll be in a really good space to do so. I'm not pressuring my partner to look at doing that yet, because when the time comes, he could do a sperm test if needed 3 months before, change a few things, and then it could change massively in 3 months. Women's bodies are more complex, and this is why I feel, I don't want it to sound like I'm having a go at people, but I'm very, very passionate about this and understanding our bodies. And I just think for me, I wanted to feel prepared for if it may take a while. We never know if there's an issue with our bodies until we start trying for a baby. You could be prepped. I could be off the pill and off of contraception for years. I could do a fertility test. We could still struggle to get pregnant. But I want to do everything that I possibly can to avoid that. I know people that, you know, were struggling to get pregnant, and then the minute they were like, right, I'm going to track my cycle properly, I'm going to do this, they feel pregnant pretty quickly. And like I say, it doesn't happen like that for everyone. It could be really, really hard. I've got clients that have struggled really, really. It's tough even to listen to, let alone go through. And yeah, I just think if I could try and save myself some heartache, where possible, I will, and just be prepped, a bit more prepped. Like I say, you can't control everything, but I will control what I can. And I just want that to be the emphasis of this conversation, that, yeah, I don't want it to sound like come off the pill, come off this, come off that, because like I say, I'm not a doctor. I am not the best person to talk about this. I'm just talking from my own experience. If you have thought about, I'm a bit scared of being on contraception still, or this, that and the other, just do a bit of research, just look into things, just start to become a bit more aware, a bit more in tune with your body, and choose what works best for you. But yeah, just to wrap that, I thought this was going to be a short episode, but it wasn't, so sorry about that. But just to circle it back, contraception is personal and there's no right and wrong choice. I want to make that very, very clear. But my key message is that, like, the more you know about your body, the more empowered your decisions become, and you just feel better in yourself. I'm just encouraging you guys just to read up on your bodies, ask the questions, and just listen to your body. And yeah, that's the key takeaway in all of this. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I would absolutely love it if you guys, I've still got quite a few topics I do want to talk about, but I would love to get some of you guys opinions on topics or things you maybe want me to talk about or things you would like to hear, just because I want to make sure that I'm definitely, hitting the points that you guys would want to listen to as well. So yeah, if you are listening to this on Spotify, please leave it a review. Please send it to someone that you think would enjoy this. Please comment, do what you can. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment. It means the world. And yeah, I will see you in next week's episode. Bye, guys.